Hello there, this is DBT, and this Art of Runes. And alright, let's continue playing some more Asphalt Legends Unite. And today, for the last time here on the channel, at least for a while, I'm gonna be talking again about the situation in the Nintendo Switch related to the control changes, to the physics changes, and all of that stuff. And I said that is the last time because I've already made a couple of videos explaining the way that I understand things, trying to do the best that I could in explaining what are the differences and whatnot. And the reality is that I'm kind of tired of talking about this topic because if I've learned one thing from... Oh, Jesus Christ. If I've learned one thing discussing these topics is that there's a certain amount of people who will not be convinced no matter what. I understand that a lot of this is subjective, even in my own way of looking at things. So I can understand that some people are gonna be like, no, it doesn't feel this way to me, this feels wrong, so whatever, it's fine. So I just don't want to spend any more time trying to convince everybody. However, I'm making this one last video because, ooh, that's 4,000 syndicate coins. Oh, that's good. I'm making this one last video about the topic just to give you one last comparison of the slowdowns. And I'll get into it a bit more before I jump into it though. If you like my content, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all of that good stuff. And one last thing that I want to do over here, I just got my 30,000, well, I just reached 30,000 syndicate coins. Please let this be the last one that I need to buy to unlock the Ferrari SF90. Is it? Yeah, baby! Oh man, it's been quite a bit of a grind. Obviously, I'm playing right now on the Nintendo Switch. So man, there we go. Unlock the SF90 SX Extra Dally. Honestly, I'm not gonna be looking to start this car up. I just wanted to unlock it for the collection, and that is that. I'll make a little bit more progress still, but you know, it's been a little bit of a rough time doing this whole thing. But all right, so let's get back to the topic. For that, let me go into my beloved quick race because you know that quick race is a lot of fun. Let's go into this. I'm not gonna be caring too much about doing the objectives, but let's pick some. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Whoa, what's happening? Jesus Christ. Let's pick this card that is terrible for drift. Let's go. So, quick recap. It had been announced that once Asphalt Legends Unite will be released on the Nintendo Switch, we would lose the custom driving experience that we used to have. Here on the Nintendo Switch and Asphalt 9, the driving was a little bit different. In one particular way, which was having gasless drift. I've already talked about this before, where if you had manual acceleration and you would no longer press the acceleration button while you were drifting, you would do a very wide but very quick drift. You wouldn't lose as much speed in the drift, though it would be considerably wider. Now this made it so that you could get some really crazy times even with cars that would normally not be very good in global. Simply because even if the drift was wider than usual, you would make it short, you know, not a long drift, and you would keep a lot of the speed. So that was a fantastic thing. That was lost. But one other thing that changed that a lot of people didn't quite notice or didn't realize, myself included until I actually got to play it, was the fact that we now have support for analog steering as opposed to, I suppose you could call it, digital steering. I already made a video talking about this. Links are in the top right about now if you want to watch it. Long story short, before with non-analog steering or digital steering, basically, the moment that you would start steering a little bit to the right, it would be steering all the way to the right. I don't know if I can explain myself very well on that one. So if you only move the stick with which you were driving 50% into the capacity of steering, it will still be technically steering to 100%. So we lost that. Now we have analog steering. And with that, what happened is that it became much more sensitive. And that is actually why I wanted to do a little bit of testing with this car now that I've explained the situation. Because I did see one comment in my previous video saying that the problem was playing with the Joycon, and I realized that I've been playing the Nintendo Switch version all this time with the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, which has, let's say, longer travel for the stick from the center to the border on which you can steer. You know what I'm saying, right? When you move the thing, you have a little bit more leeway as to how much you can move the stick lightly. So now I'm trying here with the Joycon, but yeah, okay, I can see the problem indeed. If you're playing with the Joycon, it's much more difficult to do light steering because you're steering a tiny little bit in the Joycon and suddenly, before you realize, you're already hitting the border, so that means you're steering 100%, which is too much for this game. I did say in the previous video that you should definitely decrease the sensitivity of this thing. And yeah, there we go. I'm running right now at 20%, but there we go. You see now that I'm playing with the Joycon. So I can see why this is a bit more difficult, so valid point. And I did say in the previous video that it does feel like indeed this is extremely sensitive. And you lose a lot of speed, so you need to be very, very careful on how you are steering. But the main reason why I'm making these videos is because I still saw people saying like, no, this has nothing to do with how light you steer. You still lose way more speed that you lose compared to what you lose in all the other versions. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's what I've been hearing a bunch. And that's why I say, okay, that is just objectively wrong. In all versions of the game, you lose speed as you are steering. The difference is how much you're steering, how used you are to steering that. And for this precise purpose, I actually made a little bit of a compilation video. And I never picked up the nitro bottles. It's fine. This is just for the sake of talking while I explain, or rather playing something while I explain. I made a little bit of a video showing you precisely how in all of the versions that I play, you lose speed no matter what. And once again, I'll just say it one more time. If you feel that it makes no sense what I'm saying, that's fine. You know what? I'm done trying to convince people. Just wanted to give this little last comparison in case this helps anybody. Because while I am complaining about the people who are just like, no, what you're saying makes no sense, I'm 100% convinced of what I am saying is right. The reality is that there's also been people telling me like, oh, now I understand, thanks DBT. So that's why I still wanted to make one last video to give this last comparison, because I thought, hey, someone mentioned this in the comments on the last video that I did, and I'm like, okay, I'll try something like that. Now, this is not going to be a properly scientific experiment with a perfectly controlled environment and 700 iterations to make sure that the results were 100% right. No. This was pretty much first tries that I did over here, but you can see that the screen is divided in four different parts. We have the Nintendo Switch version in the top left. We have Android at the bottom, we have Steam with the controller on the top right, and Steam with keyboard on the bottom right. Now, first it's in black and white, because all of this that you're gonna see in black and white doesn't even matter. This is just the build up to the part in which I made the test. The test consists in being at top speed in a particular part of the track and then do full steering to the left, be it, again, with all of these controllers, and see if it's really true that some platforms don't really lose that much speed. Because that's, again, what I've been hearing or reading a bunch of people saying like, no, I've seen it that on Android, you don't lose that much speed. No, I've seen it. I'm like, guys, I played the Android version, I played the Steam version, I played the Switch version. I have experience in all these three versions. I can tell you, you lose speed in all of them. Now, once again, it is true that it seems that the Nintendo Switch is way too sensitive. And that's why I say decrease as much as you can the sensitivity. That helped me a lot. But here we go with a little bit of a comparison. By the way, you will notice that the Android footage at the bottom left is terrible because my phone is not a particularly great phone. So I was running in 30 FPS and recording. There was even more frame drops at the time of recording. So that's why it looks like garbage. But still, it serves the purpose. So again, don't pay attention to much what's happening right now. The reality is the test begins, you will see it because it will go into full color after the upcoming cave. Exiting the cave is when the test starts. Notice that I'm going to be trying to hit top speed by the time that I exit the cave. Top speed without nitro. And over here, you will notice that I'm pretty much top speed in all of them. 343, 344, 4444. Now, this number always changes a little bit, the 343, 344, you know, because it's 343 point something, so whatever. It's close enough. And by the way, all of this is Hurricane Gold, just because I was like, which car do I have in gold in both versions? Okay, there we go. So, at full speed, and then the steering begins, and there it is. Now, if I pause right here, you will be able to, oh, wait a second, you see the Steam didn't lose as much speed and whatnot, right? All right, again, this is not a scientific experiment, this is just me trying to show that at some point, all of the cars, depending on how much you're steering, you're gonna lose a ton of speed. I'm gonna let it play, it's just the end of the race, it's fine, whatever. But then I do another replay of the same thing, but in slow motion. So look at the frame rate on the bottom left, it's terrible, but anyway. So this is in slow motion, and somewhere around here, the test actually begins. And you can see how instantly, the moment that you're steering, well, this, apparently the Steam controller, I hadn't started steering just yet, I already started steering in the rest. But the point is not that everything is gonna happen at the same time, because you know how difficult it is to do two races to be exactly the same? Imagine trying to do 4 races with 4 completely different control settings amongst all of them, but still. So the point here is mostly to show how all of them are going to be losing speed. So much so that I believe all of them are going to reach, yeah, look at that, 227 over here on the Switch, 228 on the Steam with keyboard, 226 on the Switch, 222 on the Steam with the controller, 221 in Steam keyboard. I'm gonna let it there so that you have an idea. And again, it's not that things are happening at the same time. I'm just showing how in all of the versions, all of them are gonna lose a lot of speed. This is just how the game is. And once again, I'm bringing this up because I've seen people saying very, very sternly that no, I've seen it with my own eyes. In Android, people don't lose speed. I'm like, they do. Everybody, all of the platforms lose speed as you're steering. That's why you steer with perfect nitro, or that's why you steer with very little, very light steering on the Joycon or on the thumbstick or whatever you want to call it. All of the versions are the same. That was the whole point on this. Now, once again, I understand that for people on the Switch, for some people on the Switch, because not everybody's complaining, by the way. I've seen a bunch of people who are like, no, I'm already adapted. This is fine. But for some of these people who are complaining a lot, it's like, no, it really doesn't, it's a completely different thing. And I'm like, no, it's not. But you know what? That's why I wanted to make this little video, this comparison, to show you in a more visual way, in a more visual comparison, how all of the versions of the game, you're gonna end up losing a lot of speed as you steer. What is the answer? How do you fix that? Well, you have to play with sensitivity. Obviously, you need to try to steer as lightly as possible. Worth mentioning that both in Android and in the keyboard, once again, it's not analog steering because I'm pressing buttons or pressing the screen. So you have to be a little bit of feathering, which is pressing the button a bunch of times lightly, tapping it. So as to steer a little bit, no steer. Steer a little bit, not steer. Steer a little bit, not steer. That's what you gotta do, right? But yeah, overall, just wanted to show you this because, man, once again, this has gotten a little bit ridiculous. And like I said, I'm kind of tired already of talking about this whole thing because some people will just not be convinced. So if you're one of those people who isn't convinced, that's it. You're not gonna hear DBT talking about it anymore. If you don't like how the game feels, I'm sorry about it. I hope that the Switch version of the game does have that issue of the really sensitive steering fixed. But in the meantime, the workaround is to lower the sensitivity as much as you can. If you're still not comfortable with that, then, well, it's unfortunate, but we can only hope for the best. But yeah, that's it. I just wanted to make this video because, once again, I'm just tired of seeing people saying like, no, it's different. I'm like, guys, I play a bunch of different versions of the game. I'm pretty sure that, look at that, 225 over here on this side, 225 over here, 225, I saw it, 226 again. You see how, look at that, 219 with the keyboard. So, yeah, I don't know, just wanted to make this because, oh boy, what a topic this is. And like I said earlier, I understand that test I did is hardly scientific, you know? Yeah, the circumstances were not exactly the same amongst all of them and this and that. Yeah, I understand that, but you know what? I'm not gonna spend hours and hours and hours and hours to get the exact same race, the exact same movements at the exact same timing in 4 different platforms or 3 platforms and 2 different controllers in one of them, just for people to still be like, no, but I still don't believe. So that's why I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do a quick dirty test. And hopefully that's gonna help somebody to see this. And if it doesn't help, that's fine. You can still just go with what you feel. And again, I'm not trying to invalidate people's feelings in terms of this. If you don't like how it feels, that's fair. Not everybody can get used to how the thing feels now. That's all right. In the same way that a lot of the things that I say are very subjective to how I feel them myself. So that's why I say that I cannot really get into, oh, these guys are not very smart because they're not understanding than this or that. No, I get it. Subjective opinions are that, subjective. But like I said, I just find ridiculous how some people even were saying that my previous video on the topic was clickbait. Because, well, it shows things that cannot happen. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Literally what you saw in the thumbnail of my previous video was screen grabs from what was happening in the video. You can find the exact frame in which I took the screen caps of the speeds being different. But whatever. Like I said, there are some people who are just really not interested in listening, or they're not interested in even watching or anything. They go like, nope. No, what I believe is the truth, and I'm not even gonna try to see if it's any other way. And like I said, to a certain degree, I can understand because I've fallen in that same trap myself. But that's why I said that I do try to listen to what you guys tell me in the comments and whatnot. And if it's some constructive criticism, like the one where it would say like, hey, why don't you make a comparison between the times and this and that? Okay, there we go. And I tried it. And like I said, I'm just not gonna do an insanely time-consuming test that it's gonna take, it's nearly impossible. Again, you've played this game, you know how incredibly RNG based this game is, and it's literally impossible to do two races that are exactly the same. You can even leave the computer, or rather the game, playing in touch drive, and it still will not give you the same race time twice, even if you're not inputting anything. If you let the computer finish the race exactly the same by touch drive all by itself, it's still gonna give you a different result because the game is so incredibly RNG based. Something that will work in some way, next time it will work ever so slightly different, and that may have made a difference of 4 kilometers an hour, and your time on the lap was completely different. So yeah, that's why I said, like, you know what, I made an attempt, but that's as far as I'll get on that. And from here onwards, I will just talk about my experience in the game now that I've played it more. Man, I'm having a lot of fun in this version of the game. Like I said, once I started getting used to the control settings over here, you know, and how it feels a little bit different than, or considerably different than how it felt Asphalt 9 here on the Switch. Once I got used to no longer trying to do gasless drift and things like that, I'm actually having a really good time in this version of the game, because once again, I'm really surprised at the performance of the game here on the Nintendo Switch. It performs surprisingly good. I thought it was gonna be way worse, and not at all. It's actually pretty solid. Now, yeah, it's not 60 FPS locked at all times, and yeah, there's times where the frame rate will dip quite harshly in some particular parts, in some tracks and whatnot. But for the most part, it's pretty consistent, it's pretty enjoyable, and yeah, it's quite alright. I will say though, some of the fancier graphics from the Steam version as I played over there, yeah, I do miss some of the dynamic shadows and all of that, but it's just some cosmetic stuff. In general, I'm really pleased that this version of the game looks pretty alright, plays pretty alright, and like I said, I do have a much better garage in general terms, not only on number of cars, but in how many cars I have upgraded and whatnot. So that's why I'm very interested in continuing playing this version, and I might actually continue maining this version of the game. I will still play probably the Windows version from time to time, here and there and whatnot, continue going for Lambos when I can, saving tokens. But in terms of buying Legend passes, or excuse me, Unite passes and all of that, I'm probably gonna stick to this version of the game, because once again, this is the one with offline, this is the one with quick race. Oh man, I love it so very much. So alright, if you found this video so much useful, go ahead and hit the like button. Like I said, I'm not gonna delve any deeper into this topic of the controllers, because it's just a losing battle. I'm not gonna convince the people that don't want to be convinced, and I believe that people that I could convince, I already did. So yeah, that's the last that you hear of me or from me about this topic in a full video. I'll probably still mention it from time to time, but for now, that does it. If you enjoyed the video, once again, hit the like button, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.